So, Tracy Waltman Phillips, welcome,
Oh,
welcome, welcome. How are you, dear?
I'm well. So I have a question. Do you have a middle name?
Yes.
What is your middle? Some
Are you,
cultures, they don't have middle names.
sister? No, I'm going to open this with, don't let me tell you, because my middle is my dad's Qualnia, Qualniah. So it's Qualnia. And then Mushi in line with, so when I was born, Mushi Dayan, the Israeli general, was really, really raging, and my dad was a fan, and he gave me that middle name, Moshe, Moshe. So for what, my first, my entire elementary, I was going by Mushi Port, and I got so ours is high school. So after sixth grade, you just jump to seventh, and we call it high school. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be called Woolwin. Don't want to be called Mushi anymore. So anybody you hear calling me Mushi, they're friends from 1984 and before. Anybody after it's 1986 and after with Woolwin. So that's my name, Woolwin Qualnia Moshi Port.
Oh my gosh, I love it. There's always a story.
There is.
There's always a story. I was supposed to be Holly, not middle name, like first name, Holly.
Okay.
And both my parents really liked that name, and they moved into this small little home in this really beautiful, actually the neighborhood I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right before my mom was, going to have me, and they met the neighbors, and the neighbor's dog was named Holly. So last minute, my mom's like, no, I don't think
so. So Tracy came on.
Tracy came along. Yeah, I was named after Grace Kelly in one of her movies. She played something about money. I can't remember the name of the movie, but her character's name was Tracy.
Interesting.
I guess she was rather a pill. And I was like, well, why would you name me after a character that was
No,
I just love Grace Kelly. I'm like, okay, but she was in lots of movies.
let's think about the money part. I think they saw that she was prosperous. She was doing something great with the money that was coming to her. She was doing things around the world, making sure that, ending world hunger, working for girls, doing all these things and writing books and movies. And they said, you know what? We'll call her Tracy. Thus, Tracy walks into her destiny today saying that, hey, I'm an author, soon be an author, it's coming out. And then a couple years or a couple months from now, then this showings on TVs, and then she's filling up auditoriums, and then she's doing that, right?
I think that sounds great. I think she just drank a lot of martinis in the movie, but I like your version.
Nah, take my version.
Drinking martinis, but your version is a lot more. I right up my lane there. I like that.
So I think this is from. I think we kind of picking up from last week, right? Creating your own playbook. So Tracy in that movie was doing and balling, right? And this Tracy is not going to go by that Tracy's playbook. She's going to do her playbook, right?
Right.
Wow. So
my interpretation, my upgraded and current interpretation of Grace Kelly. But I do like Grace Kelly. I did like her as a person and a movie star. She was. In fact, the middle name Grace. I always thought if it wasn't Brooke, which is a family name, it would have been Grace for my daughter.
Oh, wow.
So.
Wow.
We just keep passing these names on, right?
Correct. And the strange thing, my Woolwin was my grandmom was reading a book. Just so happens she's reading a book when my mom's pregnant. And she goes and says, well, I got a name for you. Why not Woolwin? And it's Welch. So it's really Vulvan is how when I meet people with that background and I go, my name is Woolwin, they go, oh, it's Vulvan, right? Like, okay.
Well, not how I pronounce it, but yes.
Hey, whatever. So it's strange how we get our names, right? But think I think names are so powerful, um, because you can't say a name. You can't. What I want to say is say you can't. I can't. I can't knock your name. I can't blow your name. I can't think your name. I have to say your name, right? And when I say your name, our speech conjures up certain things, right? And when I say Tracy, it's whatever that means to you, right? That you turn, we turn for just that name. But if we stop to think for a few, when I say Tracy Waldman Phillips, oh my goodness, it's bringing your dad in it. It's bringing,
Isn't it funny? Yeah.
it's bringing your mom and your dad. It's bringing your siblings in it. It's bringing your niece who wouldn't pronounce Tracy. Tracy would pronounce it Tati, right? So all of those things, when we call our names, it's a beautiful thing. I think it's.
I love that.
see
That's
you.
really
I see you.
that's a I love the way that you just described that, because it's true. I mean, if you think about it, it's like there's other people that share our name, but not in the same way, right? Not with, I mean, it's funny now. It's like, being Tracy Waldman for so many years before I was married, that's Waldman is not a common name. And so I was like the only Tracy Waldman. As soon as I became Tracy Phillips, people are like, oh yeah, there's like a million Tracy Phillipses. I'm like, oh, but not with an I and one L, and
There
so
you go. There you
these
go.
combinations. And again, I think we strive to be individual, and it's very important to us as human beings to kind of have our individuality. And yet that piece you talked about with family, we have the DNA of our family. I mean,
Yes.
what they found too scientifically is we don't just carry the traits, we carry the memories, we carry,
Wow.
we carry, like, when a trauma happens 8 generations back, that gets registered in the DNA, and any children that come after that have that in their DNA. So when people have fears of snakes and fears of, where you have it so young before you even develop an understanding of what a snake is or what it does, they tested, that there's these fears because they get passed down generationally.
Wow.
And so there's so much in that name, and for the longest time, I didn't really like Tracy. I thought, I don't know, I just, as a kid, I didn't love it. It didn't, some of my friends had such girly names, and, and I was like, Tracy, just kind of like, and then one time, I think it was middle school, we were asked to look up the derivation of our names.
Correct.
And some people had made up names, where their parents just put names together and stuff. So there was no derivation. So they got to tell that story and all of that. Well, there's a derivation. It just was not. But mine means warrior. It's Celtic. And it comes as it was a masculine name, right? Which I was like, aha, that's what that's what I always felt as a kid. It's such a boy's name, but it's a masculine name and it means warrior.
Oh,
and I thought, how apt.
Do you know my Woolwyn means warrior also?
It does not. Get out.
I swear, when you said it, that's why my mouth was. And I'm looking. And I wanted, as I was speaking earlier about the Woolwyn, I wanted to say, oh, it means warrior, and I was like, nah, not important here. Da da da. I'm just gonna. And oh my goodness.
It all makes sense.
Very, very interesting. I was listening to Creflo Dollar talk the other day, and he was talking about race, etc. And he said, man, it's not, he said, there's one race. There's the human race. And then there's a white person in the human race. There's a brown person in the human race. There's a black person in the human race. These are, and what it boils down to is it boils down to the blood, right? It's the blood that matters, and the blood is red. And if the blood is red, when that black person is dying, and they say you need blood, and it says it's white blood. It's white blood. It's not A, B, or O. You're like, it's white blood. Nah, I don't want it. But when they tell you it's A, B, it matches A, B, O, whatever it is. Like, yes, that's it. And then life comes in, right? Life comes in not based on color. It's based on the blood. And I don't know how I correlated that. I correlated that with the names. We all have names. And here it is, Warrior Tracy, right? And then Warrior Woman. Gosh, so it boils down to what the name means, huh? Same thing with this thing that's going on around the world. It's about equality. It's about the blood, and the blood is the one that sizes it's up, right? Ah, my goodness.
I love
Okay.
that.
Mm.
I love that. It is so true. I mean, we talked about this a couple of conversations back, categorization, and how we learn to give certain meanings to things based on the category that we've attributed to that thing, or that thing to what category. And it just, when we step back from that, like, okay, what if we were to decategorize everything, just take everything out of the category? We would find a lot more sameness.
Oh.
Categorization is one of the main things that divides things because they're in separate categories. And because we're always looking to separate things into categories, we're looking at what separates, not what unites.
Correct.
And so that piece is just so great. Do you know where O blood? So O blood type is the most prevalent blood type. Do you know why they call it O? Do you know where the names of O, A, B come from?
Tell me.
So when I was in school, coaching school for nutrition, we learned about blood types, and there's this great book, Eat Right for Your Blood Type, depending on, so O stands for old. O is the oldest blood type. It is the original blood type. We used to all, as a human race, have only O.
Mm-hmm.
And then as human beings started to become nomadic and move around, it all was the adaptation to our environments and what we were eating.
Correct.
So our environments and what we took into our bodies started to inform everything down to our blood. And things started to shift. New blood types started to evolve based on, so A is aggregate, I think it's agrarian. Okay. So it's the agricultural, the people with A blood type do much better with grains and that type of thing, as like O doesn't do as well, right? So grains tend to puff us up, and we don't do well with grains. And then B is balanced. So B is interesting because B, you will find B people originated from like the Asian populations, as well as like Middle Eastern. So it's kind of, as people started to, intermarry, and, different types started to come together and create new types.
Correct.
The blood also came around. So B blood types are the ones that can eat almost everything.
Correct.
And then AB, then that starts to become, hybrids of A and B. Correct. That didn't quite become its own blood type. It's, Correct. Usually if you see an AB child, it's mother or dad has A and the other one has B.
Correct.
O is the universal. So oftentimes, even though it's the oldest, you won't see O unless both parents have O. So for example, my husband didn't know what blood type he was, but when my daughter was born, I was paying attention to when they tested her, and she has B. I'm O. And so we joke with her that she has BO. But we're like, you must be B, by, like, if she's B and I'm O, the only way she can have B is if you're B. So
okay, yeah, deduction. Gotcha. Wow, that's interesting. Things inform us. Things inform us every single day. But it's if we accept it, if we if we study, if we stop to look at it, if we communicate. So here we are, you were talking, and see, I don't know what my type, I think my type is, gosh, I've got it. I've got my papers here. I got to look at my papers to see what it is. Gosh, now you, because that's interesting. If I'm A, and I can see you said A is for agriculture, right?
Yeah,
For agriculture,
agrarian.
and um, mm, so I know this is a very on-site scientific, this is a very on-scientific hypothesis or formalization. Would we say that which one of these blood types are easier to become vegetarian?
Yeah, that's what they that's what it
It-
says in the
oh,
in
really?
yeah, and in fact, O blood type is usually the one that does best with meat. Other blood types don't do as well with meat. And you know, there's so many different theories, right? Like that's kind of one of the reasons I got out of nutrition, is because it was like so polarized. I mean, you're just like one group of people have their science that
Correct.
shows that this is the right way to do it. The other people have their science that shows the opposite, and it's just like, ugh, it's so.
Yeah.
I always used to tell people, use your common sense, your gut
Mm.
sense. Like, how do you feel when you eat a food?
Yeah, true, true, true.
You know, I mean, if but a lot of the issues that we have that we think have to do with other things, like we're coming down with something, or a lot of it has to do with allergies, right?
Mm.
And they can be subtle allergies that then, if they go unchecked, become less subtle.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, I mean, we all do well with more vegetables than not. But in general, you look at the different, like O's need more protein on
Mm.
average, but every
Gotcha.
O individual is different. So you can't just use
Mm.
that as a blanket statement.
Correct.
But if you look at all the blood types across the board, they tend to be the ones that do better with, you know, heavier amounts of protein, especially animal protein.
Wow. So what I'm getting here today is I'm getting a lot of, today will be a day of tips. Just nuggets here and there, and something just crossed my mind, and this is, trust me, this one is going to take us way off what we've. You know how your car, you have the scratch after you rub against another car and those streaks come in. Now, those are abrasions, let's just call them abrasions, right? So those abrasions, if they do not go down to the the steel, or it does not go down to the, what's the molding? Is it rubber?
The plastic.
Plastic, correct. The plastic molding. If it doesn't go down to the plastic, it's just paint rubbing on paint. So if it's white, red, you can see those. You'll see those red streaks. If you take brake fluid and put the brake fluid now. This is this is really eavesdropping the moment conversation.
Never know what you're going to get here, folks.
If you take brake fluid and put it on that thing, on the you can put it on a towel or paper towel, whatever. You soak it up and you just go in. Do you know that thing, that streak moves, and it's your color, it's back on, and nobody knows if you've had an accident?
So as long as it's just the color from the other car that kind of gets embedded
Yes.
in your car, you can take off that color with brake fluid.
Brake fluid. Brake fluid. There you
I
go.
love that, without damaging your car's color, right?
Without, sister, what's wrong with you? Well, I'll damage your car color.
Well, I mean, I was like, how does it take off their car color and not your car color?
I think it's because that streak, I don't know the science behind it, but trust me, I have family family people I meet at the gas station, because I've done it a whole lot of times with my car. And I look and I say, hey, you know how to remove that? I'm like, no, it's like brake fluid and a cloth. Just wipe it off, and it wipes off clean.
I love that.
Go and look at your car, go and see if there are any streaks on it, and wipe it off. And if you wipe it off and it's good, hey, Eavesdrop gave you a tip.
It's like, wait, you thought we were all about leadership all the time and
You
learning just about, what's deep inside. No, we can do the superficial too.
There you go. There you go. But this is leadership, car leadership. Making sure you're riding a clean car, right? Wow.
Yeah. Well, now you're gonna get me all on the tip stuff because now I'm just like, oh heck, I can bring out the tips. Yeah, so one of the things, marker on hardwood floor, Sharpie on hardwood floor. So cute little story about my daughter when she was about 4 years old.
Gotcha.
She had been on the hardwood floor in my husband's office, and she had been, doodling, and she just had grabbed whatever marker she found, and it happened to be a black Sharpie. So she's like young, so of course she's not doesn't stay on the paper. And she comes to realize at some point that she'd gone off the paper, and there was this big, black streak on the floor. So she goes, and she's trying to figure out what to do. It's like that kid thing, like, do I pretend like it didn't happen? Do I hope they don't notice? Do I say something? So being my daughter, she decided, well, if it's already there, I might as well make it into something pretty. So she makes it into a flower.
Wow.
Her little 3-4-year-old self draws this flower. So now it's this big mark on the floor.
Instead of the streak.
Right, exactly. Like it's a tattoo in the middle, a flower tattoo in the middle of my husband's floor of his office. And so I come in, and as she's doing this, and I'm like, oh honey, what are you doing? And she tells me. And I'm like, oh well, it's very pretty, but I don't know if that's the best place for it. And she was like, I know, mommy, I know it's not supposed to be there, but I didn't know, I just wanted to make it pretty. so we, I think I took a picture of it or something, and then I'm thinking, how are we gonna get this off? And I'm into essential oils, so I have like every essential oil unknown to man. And I had heard that, I knew that lemon oil took off a lot of things. You can use it for spots on your clothing, that spot that won't come out. Just
gotcha.
Put a little bit, let it sit for a little bit, and then wash it. So I thought, so put a little lemon oil on there. That came up like no problem. I mean, it was like what you just explained. There was no scrubbing. It just came right up. So if you ever get Sharpie on your hardwood floor or anywhere else, use lemon oil.
Bam! There you go. As you were talking, I remembered we had a party, numerous parties where wine spilled on the carpet, and I had read that Sprite. Once you pour Sprite on it, that reaction bubbles, and then you wipe it, right? So I go, and I had done it a couple of times here at the house. We went out. I think we went to a friend's house, and white carpet. And someone spilled, I think it was red punch or wine or something really. And they were like, girl, I just, I said, you got some Sprite here, you got some Sprite. And I got the Sprite, went down there, and they're looking. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, calm down.
I got this, I got it.
Got a cloth, and then you went. It's like,
yeah. So if all else fails, you will be a carpet cleaner. You have room.
There you go. But we talk about tips, but one thing that I think I'm gonna laugh this entire show. What is, when you're sitting with a client, right? You're sitting with a client. What's your universal tip to that person that is meh? To that person that is, I can't see it anymore. I can't. What tip do you give that person, Tracy?
So if they're in victim, basically, or if they're just feeling blue.
I blew a question to you. Anyone?
Like I'm trying to categorize it.
Inhale, and open, and give your aroma.
I mean, at all times, I always tell people everything is is relevant, right? Because I think a lot of times I find in our society, we either want to totally give in and be hijacked by the thing that's pulling us down, or we want to dismiss it. We want to be like, you know, tough guy, you know, or tough girl, and kind of bully through it and not, you know, not really address it. Either way, you know, I always find that everything, to me, emotions are information that's coming from our heart brain. And it's just like stuff, it's like ideas and thoughts that come from our head brain.
Gotcha.
Right? It's information. What we do with that information is important, you know, but first we have to decide whether we're going to allow the information in, you know. And for me, it's like, if it's coming up, it's relevant, right? If it's something you're feeling or something you're thinking, somehow it's relevant. What you do with that information, if you first just say, okay, it's relevant, I'll let it in, and then what you do with it may be, oh, okay, it's telling me X, Y, and Z. Oh, I need to investigate that more, or okay, great, I can release that now because it gave me what I need. But either way, if we're constantly playing, you know, it's like racquetball with it, where things are trying to come in and we're just batting them away, that information can't meet us where we are. And so, you know, wherever people are, I always say, where you're at right now is relevant. Would you like to spend some time investigating that? Right? It's not whether it's timely, not timely, relevant to this conversation, not relevant to this conversation, what you want to do, what you don't want to do. I'm just basically telling you it's relevant and giving you permission to decide whether you want to discuss it or not. And what I find is it has a deeper meaning attached. Not only is it giving people the autonomy and sovereignty to decide for themselves, not to be like, oh, let's jump on that and you know, dig into it. It's not for me to say. But what it's saying basically is two things. One is what you're feeling is relevant, because a lot of people forgot that. And two, it's giving them the permission to choose what they do with that aspect of themselves, with that information that's coming to them, right? Because the other pieces, we've been so conditioned to do as we're told, or to look outside of ourselves to the answers of what to do with that information. Like, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what it is. What should I do? Well, I don't know. What should you do? And it's okay not to know, but sit in the not knowing so that the knowing can arrive. And so that's what I mean, wherever people are, I always, you know, always ask, always ask permission, you know, for something. May I give you feedback? May I offer a suggestion? We always give permission. But I think permission extends even to things like that, where I'm not going to assume that this is something we should jump on just because I'm the coach and I'm in the coach's seat, and this person obviously is not doing well in some aspect. And so to me, that would be the fix it answer.
Gotcha.
And I don't think we're here to fix, right? I think we're here to hold space for discovery. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a tip or if that's you know, but that's my approach.
See, when I ask questions, I don't like to straighten it up. I don't like to comment, oh, it's because of this. I want the person who's answering to process it and give the answer they think it's appropriate for it. And if it's not, I'm like, well, I wasn't thinking on that light, but well, it's what you answered, right? It's giving you that freedom to hold your space. You know, on my end, for I go back to and where it came from was where the question came from, and now I'm going to cheat you. I didn't give you this backstory. Now I'm going to give my backstory and then answer with that, but it's directly in line with what you with how you answered anyway. I always, you know, most of the time when you are happy and everything's prosperous, you don't ask that question. What do I need to do? You live, you go. So most times, as you said, it's about when the person is in a funk, when the person is pretty much don't know next steps, right? They are you said let the no one arrive. Oh, that was excellent, right? Let the no one arrive at you. Discovery. I I just I do two things. One is why. Why am I here? Right? Answer the why. And you would say because of something. And then that's something, why that's something. Huh. What do you mean why that's something? Why that's something? Well, why that's something because of that. Why that? And what I've noticed is when you, and I call it an atomic why, where is I am trying to go down to the root cause of it. And you'll know you're at the root cause when you can't answer a why to that why. And then you go, okay, so this must be the reason. And it comes easy for me in terms of root cause because of the engineering background, where
Yeah.
you engineer it and you look and see, okay, there's a reason for this. Because there's a reason for every single thing. Every single thing. And then some things can be answered because God comes and just puts his pixie dust on it. And you go, but that's the reason because he put his pixie dust on it. Like me and you talking here now. How in the world are we supposed to be? Hey, God put that pixie dust and say, hey, two warriors, get together, talk. um, so is it atomic why? Why is it that you're doing this? And after that, now you know the reason why. And it's up to you to decide, I'm going to agree to stay in this space, knowing my why, versus countering and doing what I want to get out of it. Right. And it's so easy to do for other people, but to do for yourself, oh my goodness, I have steam coming out of my ears. Why you keep asking me that question, Walwyn? Walwyn answering, no, I don't want to answer. I'm going to take a break, play a game on the phone. Well, no, I'm not going to answer it. But that I think is a process that you develop to say the reason I'm sitting in this space with, and I'm going to say, I'm going to do this test right now with me. The reason I'm sitting in this space with Tracy Waltman Phillips is because I had prayed for my platform to broaden. And I said, God, just open my platform, open my platform. What does that look like? Well, just want to open my platform. And I thought about podcasts and this and that and the other. And nada. But then you and I came, we started to talk, and all of a sudden, and it wasn't planned, we said, why not let's do it? And then we jumped on it, did it, and here we are 8 episodes down the line, right? So the why is I needed my platform to broaden for no reason, just to broaden my platform. I wanted more people to hear you, right? Because it only had to be you, Tracy, in this with this particular conversation type. It only had to be you that we had to get together to come and have this kind of conversation, right? I'm putting back to you.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree. I could say ditto on the other side. That it was something. I think I've said this to you before. I might have even said it on our conversations live. But when the quarantine, pretty much right after quarantine started, I started to kind of go into this phase where the decisions I was making were based on what seemed like a good fit and fun. It's like, do I want to do that? Well, I don't know. Does it seem like fun? Yeah, it seems like fun. Okay,
Right.
I want to do it then. Is it with a person that I want to do this with? Yeah. Okay. Well, and it wasn't, not to say that my other decisions in the past have been contrived, but I just found that it was less on this business, good business practice kind of model, and more on a personal, how do I want to find joy in my life? I mean, it's as simple as it sounds. It's the Marie Kondo, does this spark joy or not? Question. Why is, for me, is, and I love what you said about that too, because I've always done that with clients where it's, what are your goals? I want to lose, 100 pounds, let's say. Why? Well, isn't it obvious? No. Why? Well, I want to be healthier. Well, why?
Correct.
Well, I want to be around for my kids. Why?
Correct.
Well, because I want my kids to know that, they have someone there that's for, and you, right? You just keep peeling it. And then you finally get to the one where you can't answer the why. And there you go. That's the reason you want to lose 100 pounds. Correct. For that final answer, why? Not to be healthier.
That's it.
Or to be here longer, or to be, right?
Correct.
So for me, my big why these days is really congruency. You know, it's,
Mm,
I always talk about the what, the how, the where, and the why,
mhm,
right? What is defining our value? How is defining how we want to deliver that value? Basically, how do we want to show up and be seen in the world?
mhm.
And this is definition, right? Putting definition to these things so we know what our lane is, right? So
Correct.
when you start to go out of that lane, you know it
Correct.
because you've established the definition of the lane.
Correct.
Where is about a couple things. It's about environments. Where do I like to spend my time? What kinds of people, right? You know, create an environment for me that is conducive to me being at my best and most authentic self.
Yes.
You know, where do I want this particular conversation to go? And I don't mean in precision
I know.
terms. I mean, what is the message I would like to deliver? And where would I like that to bring people, right? To what feeling, to what state, to what space?
Hmm.
And then finally, why is the legacy piece? You know, why am I doing all this? Why am I what? Why am I how? And why am I where?
Correct. Correct.
And I find that when people can define that succinctly, it does create this lane. And when we are able to look at those pieces and align them and say, do they line up, right? Are they congruent?
Hmm.
Because, you know, you see many times where people have a certain value. Like I might have a very loving tendency towards someone, but it comes across controlling. I
Hmm.
love them. And so I try to control their every move because I don't want them to get hurt, or I don't want them to leave me, or I don't, whatever, right? And it's coming from a place of deep love, but the how is not congruent with the what,
Yes.
right? So how I'm showing up
Yes.
is not coming across lovingly to this other person necessarily. And so when we line those things up and have that congruency, we have flow in our lives, right? There's this natural ebb and flow because everything's in alignment. And so when you're talking about that, it's like for me right now, it's like joy and fun is the resonant point of congruency for me these days.
Hmm.
So when I'm making decisions that are in alignment with joy and fun,
Correct.
and I don't mean party, let's get
I
crazy kind of
know.
fun, right? I'm talking about joy.
I
I
know.
actually had a moment, although that's fun too sometimes.
Oh, it is.
I had a moment this last weekend where I was meditating,
Uh-huh.
and all of a sudden I found myself in this blissful state. I mean, bliss. And I was telling a friend of mine, I was like, it went on for what felt like 10 minutes, which is a long time to be in a state of bliss.
Correct.
And what was coming through were people and experiences from my past. And I mean, some relationships that are a little have been estranged
Mm-hmm.
came through, and all I felt was my heart just busted open in love for those people.
Mm.
And it was like this massive healing. And it was in this place of joy. It was in this place of bliss, in this place of it felt fun, right?
Mm.
It was a healing that didn't feel burdensome. It wasn't hard and laborsome. And, you know,
Correct.
that's how I've tended to heal in my lifetime. You
Correct.
go through these long drawn out periods of illness and you finally get well on the other end.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that. It was it felt really good
Wow.
and very high vibrational. And so I think these are the states when they talk about bliss and they talk about, you know, yogis and different people who I guess apparently do this all the time and teach this. We've heard it talked about, but I personally had never been in that. I mean, I've had moments of bliss,
Correct.
but not like that.
Correct. Correct.
And I realized that it's because I don't know if that's why exactly, but I have been on this train of really looking for congruency. And how I know it's congruent is because it feels joyful. It feels fun. It feels good in that space of joy and fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You know, the congruency, how, what, why, everything lining up. And then you talk about meditation. Oh my goodness, that, you know, a lot of times when people in 2020 hear about meditation, they and I'm speaking in terms from the Bible, right? People are, yeah, meditating too. Some idle or don't no.
Right, right.
Meditation, I think, but when and I studied the word meditation, it was mutter on these things, mutter, think on it, just keep your mind going around it, keep your mind going around it, and it's so I'm looking at something here: dream big, be kind, love always. I have a sign in the office here, and I can meditate on that: dream big, be
That's it.
kind, love always. And that meditation does more for my direction than and 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes of that meditation on it does more for my direction in life than going to school and getting a master's, MBA, or whatever it is. Because as the man thinketh, so is he, right? It's how you think about what, what do I think about myself? And it and a lot of things are hitting me right now, and it always starts with self. It's and it's not selfish. I'm not saying be selfish. It starts with yourself. It starts with you being well, you been um, properly fed, you've been properly, you're in the right state before I can come and feed you. It's just what they say in the plane. I'm getting turbulence. Go ahead and put the mask on before. And I always say, why in the world they don't like the kids? I'm like, nah, you got to be strong enough to take care of the kids, right? So it's meditating on who you want to be, who you are. And I think what I heard you say, you had to meditate on your congruency. You had to meditate on my joy. Joy is what I'm looking for. And you're putting that stake in the ground to say anything that comes contrary to what this stake, S-T-A-K-E, stake is in the ground, I am not going to accept it. Likewise, I've met a whole lot of people in the past 3-4 years since I started to truly work on the business. And I meet them and I talk to them, nice people. They're not terrible people. No, but they are just not the people to have this conversation with, right? And there are other conversations that we have that I'm not going to have with you. I'm going to have it with them. Same you, not going to have, but this particular space, oh my goodness, I appreciate it so much. I love it that, you talked about your joy and your happiness and putting that in congruency. This happens to be mine in terms of just rapping about stuff, just conversating about stuff. Today we started crazy. Oh, tip. Hey, here's how you do it. Lemon oil, and then Sprite, right? And then from Sprite it jumps to I asked them to hold their space in order for the emotions to come. I'm like, gosh, I just came from laughing, but then we turned so serious.
We got so deep so fast.
That's what I love, and I tell you, Tracy, that's what I love about our conversation. Um, Answer that call, girl.
Oh no,
Is
oh no, I meant to take this out of the room. Sorry
is
about
it that $1 million deal?
that. They'll have to call back. I'm having too much fun.
Yeah, but no, really, it's and I think what we're doing here, and I'm speaking to others now, and I'm always been speaking to others, but more so now, have conversations. This is an hour we're taking and saying, you know what, we'll put an hour and show it to everybody. And look what an hour, I don't know what it does for you, but what it does for me, and I know what it does for Trace, because after we go offline, we're like, oh my goodness, thank God we had it. Oh, right? Go and have your hour conversations, your 30-minute conversations with people. Aha, aha, with people who aren't who are aligned but not similar. We don't want people who are exactly like you, and we're not talking about color or female male. It's about they're aligned but they're moving somewhere, and you want to couple with those kind of people to go to that next level.
Yes, for sure. So one of the things you said made me think of something that happens a lot in my client sessions,
Mm-hmm.
where people will get into a state of what I call flow, and they will stop and say, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Rambling is such a beautiful, so it tells us how we've kind of been conditioned to think about our mutterings, as you said earlier, when you talked about, meditation mutterings, is that it's bad. It's that it's too much. It's that we're just going on and not making any sense. And what I always tell people is when we are, quote unquote, in that state of what feels like rambling, we're just going on and on about random things. People could say, this show is like, today is like rambling about different things. What I've always found is that's when we're speaking from not just the head, but from the heart and from the gut and from the spirit, really. We're not just thinking, right? Because usually, and I know that because people say, I'm not making any sense, I'm just rambling. So they're not coming from the headspace because the language tells you that.
Correct.
And so what I say is, but what's really interesting is that when I'm taking notes on ramblings, it's always when the gold comes up. When the why question, that we're getting to the core answers of things, is when people are on a ramble. And so, what it allows for spirit to come in and guide. I still love, and I know I mention this every time, I love the quote, man plans, God laughs. It's like we just think that if we keep that, we have to keep a focus and our mind has to stay this way and all ducks in a row and things have to make sense and we have to prove it scientifically and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, great. That's why we're only using a fraction of our brain.
Wow.
Is because we only stay in that little category that we can control. And when we allow ourselves to open up to things that we don't even understand, they'll start coming out of our mouths. Right? I know I'm not making any sense, or I don't even understand where this is coming from. We will actually open ourselves up to spiritual teachings that will come out of our mouths, and we didn't even realize that was within us. But then we're asked to understand it because it just came out of our mouths. So it brings awareness to these higher level areas and broadens our ability to use more of our brain and more of all of our brains, head brain, heart brain, and gut brain. I love meditations that open ourselves up to not just what I'm thinking, and not just what I'm feeling,
correct,
but what I'm sensing too. Right? And we need that more than anything these days because we're in a world where who knows what's going to happen next, right? So our gut instincts need to help us through that dark forest where we don't know what's coming and what's going and which end is up and which end is down. The way we're going to navigate is through our instincts.
Correct.
And if our instincts are shut down and we feel like we can only use our head, well, guess what? We're in trouble because our head can't tell us anything about the future. The head can only tell us what we've been told and what we've experienced in the past. So we can project it into the future, but usually by the time we get into the future with the past, it's antiquated.
Correct.
So we need to be able to pivot. We need to be able to be flexible. We need to be able to change, and we need to be able to do that. The only surety we have in pivoting and changing in the moment comes from a deep central place of feeling instinctually alive. My instincts will tell me, yeah, Woolwood's a guy I want to have a conversation with. My instincts will tell me, no, that's not a good deal for me. Right? I've been using my instincts a lot talking to publishers. Like I'm just getting a feeling, it's a sense.
Yeah.
It's not an emotional feeling.
Correct.
It's literally it's a sense feeling, right?
You, oh my goodness, Tracy, you are, so I had conversations the past 2 weeks with others in terms of shifting and shifting in your spirit, shifting, pivoting, God's moving and doing certain things. My goodness, that there's so much stuff you said. You just meaty. I must be type O. But they see we can't. The spirit world. I said the spirit world exists. It's so real. It's surreal, right? The supernatural exists. And that's what you were speaking about just now in terms of, the supernatural. You're depending on the supernatural. And we know the supernatural will have those two sides, right? The good and the evil. And whichever side you operate from, you excel in it, right? And I still remember we were looking for a house in 1999, 2000. And we entered this beautiful Victorian in Cary. I mean, it was the detail in the house. In fact, let's talk about the trees, the mature trees in the yard and the garden. Exquisite. Got in their driveway, so it's so a whole lot of trees, so it's kind of dry, kind of damp, not damp, kind of dark, right? So we're getting there, but not that darkness is not what I want to talk about. There's a different type of darkness that existed in that house, Tracy. As soon as I entered, I was like, God, something terrible happened in here. And as I walked, I started to look around and went upstairs. And I mean, the detail on the stairs, the ceiling, perfection. And it was in the price point we were looking for. We were like, but as soon as I entered, I'm on a separate plane. My wife enters and she goes, honey, let's get out of here. So I look at her and go, why? She says, something went on here. And we shared notes. We told the realtor, we're leaving right now. Take care, bye. Let's go. Let's get out. She was like, this is the house. No, let's go. And we got out of the house. We still tell that story today because in our spirits, as you said, your gut, that the spirit just informed us and told us this is not the house for you, right? And I tell you, Tracy, it happens. The spirit wants to inform us every single time, only if we get on the same wavelength. And the way we get on the wavelength is sometimes by meditating. It's by reading your word. It's by, whatever other people do, right? So for me, we say for us, it's reading my word and meditating on the word of God, who informs me from those lens that I engage. So thank you for bringing that piece in. Tracy is 156. Yeesh. No.
Just have to hold on to it for another 2 weeks.
Correct. So what you got in closing on here, sis?
Well, I appreciate this every time. And I really liked today because it was, every time. I love every time. And, we get to meander, right? I think that's the thing. This is the meander. Life is a meandering river. And, I think sometimes we'd like it to just be straight, but then you find that sometimes when it goes straight, the water goes faster. And then you're like, all of a sudden, you're at a waterfall and you didn't have time to prepare yourself. So, we got to be careful what we ask for. And so I think that, in general things, and especially these days, it really feels a lot like things, one minute we're going this direction, then suddenly we have to take a quick left. And yet it's all relevant, right? So somehow I feel like everything that we cover, somebody listening will be like, oh, I needed that tip, or I needed to hear that piece, or wow, I was thinking about that same thing myself. It's nice to know there's other people out there who are considering or have been through something, that speaks to that. So I trust that. And I think that the 3 words that have come up a lot in conversation this week with my clients and myself, because again, every time it comes up with the client, I'm like, oh, that was for me too,
Gotcha.
Are trust, clarity, and focus. And a lot of the things that we've talked about today are tools for, if that was our mantra, if that's my mantra for the next 2 weeks, I'm doing the same work as my clients in the next 2 weeks, is it's, what do I need to build trust within myself? Because if I don't trust myself, I'm not going to trust others. There's this great trust exercise that my husband has done in different trainings, and you go around the room and with people and you walk up to people randomly and you just look at them. These are strangers, and you have to tell them, I trust you, I don't trust you, or I don't know if I trust you. Just right there in that minute, and you don't know them. And at the end, what they learn is that as much as we have been taught that trust is about somebody earning it, it's actually about a decision we make. We decide through all of the ways that we, through the Spirit telling us, oh no, get out of there, don't trust this, through our thoughts, through our heart, like we use all of those avenues to then determine, we decide the trust.
Oh yeah.
So if we don't trust ourselves, or if we don't learn how to discern in a trusting manner, right? What do we trust? What don't we trust? Then it's on us. It's not for us to wait around for that person to earn it, or that thing to prove to us whether it's trustworthy or not.
Right.
And the same holds true with the focus or the clarity and the focus is, using some of the tools and the what, how, where, getting really clear on the alignment and who we are and what we stand for and how we want to show up allows us then to have that clarity. But clarity comes through meditation and prayer. Clarity comes through being quiet. Clarity comes from listening.
Yep.
And I'm done, obviously, because somebody's having me get choked up here.
But
I just got turned off. They're like, done.
Yep, gotcha. And right on time too. So once again, I thank everybody for watching. Thank you for coming on, and if you came up for a second or two listening to this a year after or years after, hey, we were here. We held this space. I think today you said a word that I would make this maybe the and I'm recommending this to you and see what you say, your feedback. Meanderings. Would that be appropriate for this one?
I love it. Yes, I think so.
Gotcha. Once again, family out there watching, be blessed. Tracy, be blessed. Always a pleasure hanging with you for an hour every 2 weeks.
Likewise, my friend.
Take care and bye-bye. Let me